July 4th, 1943. Western Russia, near Belgorod. The dawn sky glows blood orange over endless wheat fields. The thunder of engines grows louder. Thousands of German tanks, trucks and half-tracks stretch across the steppe in a single, unstoppable wave. The Battle of Kursk, the largest tank battle in human history, is about to begin. At the edge of a forward panzer division, Sergeant Hans Kremer of the 3rd Panzergrenadier Regiment leans against the hull of his Panzer IV, smoking a cigarette. He squints at the horizon, where Soviet airfields shimmer in the morning haze. Someone in his unit chuckles. Those Soviet planes, the ugly ones with the armor plates, you know what they call them? Flying tractors. The men laugh. They've seen the clumsy green silhouettes before. The Aviation Il-2 Sturmovik, low and slow, with its squat fuselage and fixed landing gear. Easy prey, they say. Easy to shoot down. Kremer joins in the laughter, but glances at the distant clouds uneasily. Tractors don't fly, he says, and tractors don't shoot back. He's not wrong. The Il-2 is unlike any aircraft in the world, a fortress of steel with armor plating nearly 1.5 centimeters thick, built to shrug off rifle and even cannon fire. Soviet engineers call it Bronirovanny Sturmovik, the armored attacker. Pilots simply call it Ilyusha. At an airstrip 80 kilometers east, one such pilot, Lieutenant Ivan Gromov, climbs into his Il-2's cockpit. The aircraft glistens with morning dew, its twin 23mm Vyaya cannons loaded, its underwings bristling with rockets. His gunner, Sergeant Pavel Melnikov, checks the rear-mounted 12.7mm UBT machine gun. Gromov glances at his instruments and mutters, "For the motherland." Over the radio, his squadron commander's voice crackles. "All units target German armoured column, grid sector 22. Hit the lead tanks, then the fuel trucks. Do not waste ammunition." The Il-2s rumble down the dirt runway one by one, kicking up clouds of dust. They climb low, hugging the tree line. Below them, the Soviet steppe stretches wide and endless, dotted with smoke from burning villages and distant artillery flashes. As the German columns advance, the men below are unaware of what's coming. They hear the faint growl of engines from the east, too slow, too deep for fighters. Kremer looks up from his panzer hatch and frowns. "Aircraft," he mutters. "But not ours." Then the sound builds, a low, roaring thunder that rattles the ground. The flying tractors have arrived. July 5th, 1943. Morning, south of Kursk. The sun climbs higher over the rolling fields, and the German advance is in full motion. Rows of panzers grind forward, treads crushing wildflowers and wheat stalks alike. Columns of fuel trucks and half-tracks stretch behind them. A machine of war, 40 kilometers long. Sergeant Hans Kremer grips the edge of his turret hatch. The air tastes of exhaust and metal. Then, through the rumble of engines, another sound cuts through. A deep, rising drone that doesn't fade. "What's that noise?" one tanker yells. "Stukas?" another replies. Kremer listens closer. No, too heavy, too slow. Suddenly, out of the eastern sky, black dots appear, low, fast, and coming straight at them. As they near, sunlight glints off steel armor plates and stubby wings. "Il-2s!" Kremer shouts. "Cover, cover!" The first wave of Soviet Sturmoviks dives in screaming. Rockets streak downward, trailing smoke. The ground erupts in orange fireballs as the lead fuel convoy explodes. The shockwave slams into the panzers, rocking them on their suspensions. Men dive into ditches as burning debris rains down. Inside his Il-2, Lieutenant Ivan Gromov feels the shudder of rocket release. He pulls the stick, banking hard left, the roar of the engine drowning out everything. Below him, chaos. Trucks burst into flame. Armoured cars topple from the road. "Pavel, report!" he shouts. "2 direct hits," the gunner answers, reloading. "They're scattering like rats." Gromov lines up another run. The 23mm cannons thunder, tearing through the roof of a Panzer Command vehicle. He can see men scrambling out, uniforms on fire. One raises a rifle and fires upward. Futile. Gromov feels no joy, only grim focus. "This is for Moscow," he mutters, pulling away as flak bursts behind him. German anti-aircraft gunners open fire, tracer rounds stitching the sky. A shell detonates near the tail of another Il-2, its stabilizer shredded. The plane wobbles but stays aloft, smoke trailing behind. "Look at that," Creamer gasps, watching through binoculars. "It took a direct hit and it's still flying." "Flying tank," his gunner mutters. "No joke this time." For 20 relentless minutes, the sky is filled with thunder. Il-2s swoop low, raking the German line with rockets and cannon fire. The air smells of cordite, burning oil, and scorched grain. A panzer commander screams into his radio. "They're not breaking off. They keep coming back. Where are our fighters?" But the Luftwaffe is nowhere in sight. Stretched thin, outnumbered, their Mi-109s grounded by fuel shortages. The Soviets press their attack with mathematical precision. Each Il-2 pair works a circle of death, one aircraft striking, the other covering its partner with machine gun fire. The Germans try to track them, but the formations are relentless, unbroken. Finally, the last wave pulls away. The fields below burn black. Columns of smoke rise so thick that daylight turns red. Creamer climbs from his tank and stares in disbelief. Dozens of vehicles lie wrecked or overturned. The air is filled with the distant echo of retreating engines, that low, throaty hum that now feels like a warning from the future. His commander stands beside him, face pale. "They used to say those things were clumsy," he says softly. Creamer shakes his head. "Clumsy things don't do this." Miles away, Gromov's squadron circles over friendly lines. The radios crackle with Soviet command confirming heavy enemy losses. Pavel leans back in his seat, wiping soot from his face. "They laughed at us, didn't they?" Gromov nods. "Let them laugh again." On the ground below, the once proud Panzer spearhead smoulders in silence, a graveyard of steel carved open by the very machine they had mocked. And in that silence, the legend of the flying tank is born. July 7th, 1943. South of Prokhorovka, Kursk salient. The front is a storm of noise and dust. Artillery thunders from horizon to horizon. Thousands of tanks churn the earth into black mud. The German Chasseurs Panzer Corps pushes east, desperate to break through. But above them, the sky hums, the sound of engines that every German soldier now fears. At a hidden airfield carved from the forest, Lieutenant Ivan Gromov stands beside his battered Il-2. The fuselage is riddled with holes, but it still flies. Mechanics patch the wings with sheet metal and paint over the scars. Nearby, other Sturmovix are being rearmed. RS-82 rockets, 23mm shells, PTAB anti-tank bombs no bigger than a milk bottle. Their commander, Major Konstantin Vasiliev, strides down the line. "Today, we hit their armoured spearhead near Prokhorovka," he says, voice rough with exhaustion. "Our tanks are waiting for us. If we fail, they die. If we succeed, the Germans stop here." Gromov exchanges a look with his gunner, Pavel Melnikov. Neither speaks. They both know what Prokhorovka means. The decisive clash, tank against tank, steel against steel. Minutes later, the squadron takes off in pairs, engines roaring low through the smoky haze. They fly just meters above the ground, invisible to German radar, following the line of the Saale River. Below them, Soviet T-34s roll forward in massive formations. The radio crackles, ground forces engaged, heavy resistance. Then the voice of Vasiliev comes through. "Targets confirmed. Enemy armor on the ridge. Hit them hard and don't stop until they burn." The Il-2s rise over the ridge and dive as one. Below, the battlefield is hell. Panzers of the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler Division are locked in combat with Soviet armor, the fields littered with wrecks. And then, from above, comes a rain of fire. Gromov presses the release button. PTAB bomblets cascade from his wings like seeds from the sky, striking the roofs of German tanks. Each one detonates with a sharp crack, molten jets piercing thin top armor. Flames erupt across the ridge. Through his canopy, Gromov sees chaos. Panzers bursting open, hatches flying off, crews bailing out. Soviet T-34s charge through the smoke, guns blazing. In the German lines, Sergeant Hans Kremer is back in the fight, commanding a replacement Panzer IV. The radio is a nightmare of panic. Squadrons reporting total destruction. He looks up, just in time to see two Il-2s swoop past, cannon fire ripping through his supply trucks. "Verdammt!" he shouts. "Where are our fighters?" None come. The Luftwaffe, once supreme, is crippled. Stretched thin, from Sicily to Leningrad, the Il-2s own the sky now. Kremer's driver jerks the tank to the side as rockets slam into the ground ahead. The shockwave rocks them violently. When the smoke clears, Kremer peers from the hatch, and what he sees turns his stomach. The entire panzer column ahead is gone, reduced to flaming hulks. He lowers his head, whispering, "Flying tank." That's exactly what it is. Overhead, Gromov circles once more. His instruments are shaking, his ammo nearly gone. But below, the German offensive has stopped cold. Columns that once seemed unstoppable now smoulder in place. Soviet troops cheer from the trenches, waving their rifles at the passing aircraft. As the squadron heads back toward base, Pavel turns in his seat, shouting over the engine noise, "Did you see them scatter?" Gromov nods, weary but alive. "They called us tractors," he says quietly. "Now they plough their own graves. The Battle of Kursk will rage for days more, but in that moment, the tide has turned. The Germans have lost the initiative. The Red Army, with its armoured divisions and its flying tanks, has seized the sky. And from that day forward, no one laughs at the Il-2 again." August 1943. The aftermath of Kursk. The steppe is quiet now. The guns are silent. The sky clear but scarred by smoke trails that linger like ghosts. The wheat fields, once golden, are black with craters and wreckage, twisted steel, shattered treads, and the skeletons of burned-out tanks. Lieutenant Ivan Gromov walks across the makeshift airfield near Belgorod, boots sinking into the mud. His Il-2 stands before him, its fuselage patched together with metal from wrecked planes. Mechanics work in silence, wiping oil from their faces, exhausted but proud. In the distance, a group of local villagers gathers around a crashed aircraft. Not a German one, but a Soviet Sturmovik. The pilot's remains are already buried nearby, a wooden cross marking the grave. Someone has carved 3 words into the plank: "Za Rodinu, Za Stalina," for the motherland, for Stalin. Gromov watches them for a long time, his expression unreadable. Then he turns to his gunner, Pavel Melnikov, who sits cleaning the belt of the rear machine gun. "How many runs did we make?" he asks quietly. 14, Pavel replies. 3 direct hits on tanks, maybe 5 trucks. We did well. Gromov nods slowly. "And how many did we lose?" Pavel hesitates. "Too many." He's right. In the summer of 1943 alone, the Soviet Air Force lost thousands of Il-2s, but they kept coming. Factory workers east of the Urals worked day and night, hammering armor plates, fitting engines, painting red stars by lantern light. Each aircraft bore the fingerprints of the people who built it, men, women, even children. To the Germans, the Il-2 became a nightmare whispered in field reports. They attack in waves, from the sun, from the trees. Even when we shoot one down, 10 more appear. To the Soviets, it became something else entirely. A symbol of defiance, a weapon of the common soldier, rugged, stubborn, imperfect, but unstoppable. By late 1943, German troops had learned to recognize its approach, that deep, droning roar of its V-12 engine that made the ground tremble before the first rocket fell. Veterans said it sounded like thunder rolling in from the east. At the front, Sergeant Hans Kremer sits in a field hospital, his arm bandaged, staring out through the flap of a tent. He can still hear it in his mind, that sound. The Russians don't fear death, he tells a nurse softly. They build machines that don't either. Back at Bordsey, Gromov receives word of his promotion. Hero of the Soviet Union. He's to return to Moscow for a ceremony, but he shakes his head. Tell them to give it to the mechanics, he says. We only fly what they keep alive. That night, as the sun sets over the airfield, Gromov climbs into his Il-2 once more. The armor plates glow dull red in the twilight. He rests a hand on the control stick, the metal still warm. The engine coughs, then growls awake, stubborn, alive, defiant. He takes off alone, flying low over the darkened steppe, the same ground that had swallowed so many. Below him lie the wrecks of panzers and the graves of comrades. Above him, the sky stretches wide and endless, his battlefield and his home. The Il-2 Sturmovik will go on to become the most produced combat aircraft in history, over 36,000 built, each one a flying symbol of a nation's will to endure. It is crude, heavy, and slow, but it endures like the people who made it. And for every German who once called it a flying tractor, the echo of Kursk answers forever in steel and fire. The flying tank did not just survive the war, it helped end it.